Getting started with Source Filmmaker. In this tutorial, you will be getting started on Source Filmmaker, a 3D animation software from Valve Corporation. With Source Filmmaker, you can make either animations, which focus on a sequence of images, or posters, which focus on a single image. Aimed at individuals seeking to familiarize themselves with Source Filmmaker, the guide covers the fundamentals of its user interface and the general understanding of the animation process in this software. The materials that you will need are Windows 10 or later versions starting from January 1st, 2024, 15 gigabytes or more of free space in your hard drive, Steam client, which can be found in the Install Steam section, and lastly, a Steam account to sign in. Depending on how strong your internet connection is for the installation, this tutorial can be expected to be completed in between 10 to 30 minutes. Section 1. Installing Source Filmmaker. Log into your Steam account through your Steam client in Windows, which should redirect you to the Store page. If that is not the case, then double-click the Store button over on the top left. Underneath the Wish List button is a search text box. Click on that text box and type Source Filmmaker. Then, click on the first item from the drop-down list. In the section Use Source Filmmaker, click on the Free button. Then, a modal appears that asks you to confirm your installation. Click Install. To see the current progress, click on the icon from the bottom. The process of downloading and installing can vary depending on your internet connection and hardware model. Due to the age of this software, when the installation is complete, we will need to write 2 commands before starting the program. Over on the top left, click Library. Then over on the Source Filmmaker thumbnail, right-click it and click Properties. In the text box that states Advanced Users above, enter the following command: -use VGUI, -SFM_resolution, height, -W width, -H height, where height is the number of pixels your screen has vertically, and width is the number of pixels your screen has horizontally. For example, this tutorial has a screen size of 1920 pixels horizontally and 1080 pixels vertically. As such, the width box gets replaced with 1920 and 1080 for the height box. Note that both 1080s are being written. This is because the parameters for H and SFM_resolution ask for a number, and the context for both is for the height of the screen resolution. The way someone would know it is if they would read the program's documentation about command line startups. Afterward, close the modal and press the green button and click Play. Section 2. Setting up the scene. With Source Filmmaker set up, you should see this screen that asks to either open or create a new session. For this tutorial, name the session Sample_Test. Then, click the Create button. To work with models, we will need to first load the map. In the viewport where a text named No Map Loaded is present, right-click and select Load Map. With the filter text box already in focus, type stage.bsp and select the first item. With a map loaded, let us first get to know more about the graphical user interface. First, if your screen does not already have a secondary viewpoint, then click the Windows tab from the navigational bar and click Secondary Viewport. When working with models, it is typical to have one viewport be the animation camera, while the other one is the work camera. Next, over on the edges with 3 dots indicates that the specified tabs can be adjusted. You can move them as you see fit. If we want to pop out a tab, simply click on that tab and drag it out. To snap it back in, click and drag that tab to one of the highlighted boxes. Let's say that we also accidentally deleted a tab. If that is the case, then go back to the Windows tab and select the one that was deleted. But if that does not work, or if you cannot find it, then navigate to Layouts and click Reset Layouts. Now, generally speaking, when you work with Source Filmmaker, you will be using 2 buttons in the Timeline tab, Clip Editor and Graph Editor. For the Clip Editor, you have 3 sections you can work with. The picture section is where the scenes can be blatted by pressing the B button or modifying their duration by dragging its edges. The purple reel that surrounds the scenes is when the playback will start and end. Should at any point your animations pause when the scene is extended, double-click on that scene, move the scene if needed, and extend the animations before clicking the back button. In the sound section, you can add sounds by right-clicking and selecting Add Clip to Track. Please note that if you need to work with custom sounds, then they must be converted to MSPCM Wave 16-bit 44,100 Hz. Otherwise, if too many custom sounds need to be worked with, then it is recommended that they get compiled as one large custom sound file to be used as the reference audio. The overlay section works similarly to the sound section in terms of adding items, with few choices, but requires you to modify them in the element view. Adding custom overlays goes beyond this tutorial, and it is generally recommended to use 2D overlays when working with a video editing software. Section 3, Working with the Model. To get a better understanding of how the graph editor works, let us first import the camera and then the model. There are two ways to create a new camera. You can either go to the Animation Set Editor tab and right-click the empty field to select Create Animation Set for New Camera, and then click the drop-down arrow for No Camera, navigate from Change Scene Camera and click the newly created camera, or within that section, click New Camera. To move the camera, click on its viewpoint. Scrolling while holding the left mouse button zooms in or out. Pressing Alt and the left mouse button will move around the focus instead. Pressing Z goes up, X goes down, W goes forward, S goes backward, A goes left, and D goes right. To select a model, go back to the Animation Set Editor and right-click to then select Create Animation Set for New Model. Go ahead and type scout.mdl and select the second item. Head over to the graph editor to edit the model. Ensure that the model is selected. When animating in this editor, sequences are done through keyframes. This is called keyframing animation. We can select different frames and insert a keyframe by clicking the bookmarks icon or by pressing M. To select something from this model, hold Ctrl and left-click a point. In this case, let us select the model's pelvis called BIP_pelvis. Lastly, you have three types of control options. The Move button allows you to move from the X, Y, or Z axis. Arrows being selected restrict the movement to be in such axis, whereas the circular would allow other axis movement but still follow that specified movement. Then the box selection moves the model relevant to the screen. Similar to the Move button, the Rotate button allows the model to be rotated through raw pitch yaw angles. The outer rotation option simply rotates adjacent to the screen. Lastly, the Screen button would do the movements adjacent to the screen. Like previous buttons, the outer ring restricts the rotation while the inner gap does not. However, there is a difference between rotational movements depending on how far the model is from the circle. Section 4, Animation. For this section, here is an animation in which the camera goes around the model as the model does some simple movements. Please note that there is not one correct way to animate as long as the idea itself is present within the animation. As such, you will notice a few things that are happening. The Move button is used to move the camera, and the Rotation button is used to rotate the model's arms. Specific points are being selected from the model to be animated. Keyframes are being added for the camera and the model. Please be advised that when adding keyframes to a model with multiple points, do so when selecting the entire model from the Animation Set Editor, or else you risk the possibility of desynchronization. Making animations cannot be done overnight, and there is a common way to animate in Source Filmmaker called blocking, essentially starting from major keyframes within a scene and building on top of it by refining them through smaller keyframes in between. Section 5. Exporting. The process of exporting is a simple one. Simply go to File, Export, and click Movie. Alternatively, you can press Ctrl and M as the keyboard shortcut. Then select the resolution of your choice and click Export Movie. However, due to the age of this software, exporting it as a movie could potentially result in corruption, such as the current being shown. As such, it is recommended that the animation be exported as image sequences and then put them together in a video editing software. Section 6. Conclusion. By the end of this video, you should now have an understanding of installing Source Filmmaker, starting a new 3D session, loading a map, camera, and a model, using clip and graph editor, creating keyframes, making a basic animation, and exporting your animation. If you would like to continue learning more about Source Filmmaker, hundreds of tutorials are available on YouTube and guides on Steam such as this one. The background and model assets depicted in this scene belong to Valve Corporation. And this, and that character, including the background currently being shown, are assets that belong to Atlas. The example used in this video belongs to Jesse Baumgartner. The Steam guide that was showcased belongs to Kira Lavender. Lastly, Source Filmmaker belongs to Valve Corporation.